Okay, so today's video is all about releasing attachment. Let it go to let it in. And this has been coming up quite a bit for me in my own life. Just in these like little examples where I'm noticing in my day-to-day consciousness that I'm actually quite a lot of the time unconsciously letting go of something that I don't have any attachment to. And that process is actually enabling me to very quickly manifest a desire which I don't place attachment to. So I really wanted to come on and share this with you because I think this is, so I'm going to talk through a little bit about attachment and letting go and how that is linked to the whole manifestation process. And then at the end, I've got like a little bit of homework, a little bit of a practice that you can very easily start to implement in your own day-to-day so that you can start to really flex this muscle and really start to trust in this process. So attachment and desire, I believe, are two very different things. And I think desire especially gets this really bad rap. It gets a false meaning placed to it. We tend to think that when we desire something, we have attachment to it. But I believe that you can desire something without being attached to it. And this is where, if you can become conscious of whether you are attached or unattached to your desire, that is what is going to enable you to speed up manifestations, like in-day manifestations. So to desire something, a desire is like this inner calling. It's something that's coming from deeper within. It's this spark, it's this inspiration, it's a download, it's your innovation, it's your intuition speaking to you. It's something that you would like to experience, something you would like to feel, to have, to own, whatever it may be. But the difference, and why I think desire gets such a bad rap, is because a lot of the time we desire and we have a huge attachment to that desire. So we believe that if we do not call in this particular experience, if we don't get this certain outcome, if we don't have this particular object, that it's going to change how we are. It's going to mean that we're not satisfied or fulfilled or happy. When really this is where we go wrong with desire and attachment. And this is where the process of letting go comes in. And it's something that we need to start really flexing our muscle around, our consciousness muscle around, and our mindset muscle in order to use this. So what happens is we desire something and then we form beliefs around that desire. So we start to believe that, and these beliefs might be unconscious beliefs, they might be things that you're not particularly aware of, but we start to attach these beliefs to wanting a particular thing, into what it is that we desire. So we start to believe that we're not worthy of it, that we're not capable of receiving it. We start to distrust in the whole process. So we start to form these beliefs around it. But we really want this thing. And this is where the attachment comes in. So we start to think, if I don't have this, if I don't experience this, then I'm not worthy, then I'm not going to be happy, I'm not going to be satisfied, I'm not going to be fulfilled. And this is where resistance starts to form. We start to create these huge blocks of resistance. And we know that anytime we have resistance is what slows the manifestation process right down. So we have to try and release that resistance. And how we want to go about doing that is we want to start releasing our attachment to an outcome, to a desire. We want to start letting go of those beliefs that are being attached to that desire. And the more we can start to release and shed these things, the quicker we speed up the manifestation time. So let me give you an example of how this has kind of been showing up in my own life. And this is kind of what I want you to start practicing and start noticing in your own life. Because this is the thing with any of these tips, with any of these processes, with all of this mindset work, it's about flexing our muscles. Just like if we went to the gym, you know, if we try to lift a certain size weight when we've never done it before, it's going to be a lot harder than if we have been slowly building up our muscles and building up our strength. And it's exactly the same with mindset work. And the other thing that you want to start doing with mindset work, with anything to do with law of attraction, is you need to start building up your own internal trust and belief in the process. Because if you don't trust and believe it, then again, you're going to be subconsciously putting these blocks of, okay, I want this thing, but I don't truly believe that it can just come to me, that it can just easily arrive for me. So we want to start building up that trust in the entire process, start to believe from our own practices, from our own doing, that law of attraction is an actual law that governs this universe. So I'll give you this example. So the other day I was just thinking about wanting to have a bath. I really was not attached to this. It wasn't one of those things where it's like, oh my God, I really need a bath. I need to chill out and I need to relax. It was just a thought that kind of came into my head. And I was like, it would be really nice just to have a bath. But I really wasn't that attached to it. I really couldn't be bothered to go and run a bath and put it all together. And so I just kind of forgot about it and I just let it go. I had no attachment to, you know, if I had this bath, it'd be great. But if I didn't, I'd also be okay. And then what happened? So I kind of just forgot about it, went on about my day. And my husband started running a bath for my littlest. And she, bless her, had had a really full-on busy day. And as soon as we said, right, it's bath time, she just went into meltdown, bless her. And both of us kind of looked at each other and we're like, yeah, let's just skip bath tonight. Now, even at this point, my brain did not go, well, you could have that bath. I just didn't even think about it. Like I had completely let go of any attachment to this idea of me having a bath. And it was my husband that then turned around to me and said, well, do you want to have this bath? It's already half run. Let me finish, you know, let me make it a full bath for you. And I'll put some more bubbles and some candles and I'll make it nice. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go with that. So can you see how in that example, I manifested within day as well, something that I desired, but it was something that I desired that I had no attachment to it. So if I had this bath, great. If I didn't have this bath, still great. And this is what we want to start trying to work towards. Because from the universe's perspective, from Source's perspective, from our inner being's perspective, from this higher perspective, there is no difference between our abilities to desire something and to call it in quickly. There is no difference between me wanting to have a bath and me wanting to manifest £1 million. The only difference is the difference that we place on it. We categorize things, we put things into a hierarchy, we place importance around things. And it is that importance and that attachment to something that is ultimately slowing down the manifestation process. Because, like I say, from the universe's perspective, from Source's perspective, there is no difference, there is no energetic difference between manifesting a bath and £1 million. The only difference is that we have far more attachment to the idea of receiving £1 million. We have all of these things of what it could do for us and how it could help us. And we have all these ideas about how it could make us feel. Whereas a bath, now, yes, sometimes there might be a case where you really, really want a bath, but even if you really, really want a bath, your attachment to having something like a bath versus bringing in a large sum of money is different. You've placed a different attachment to both of those things. And what we want to start working towards doing is kind of neutralizing everything, which I know can be very difficult because we have beliefs, we have desires, but this is where it's about coming back and going within. It's about, I can be happy. I have the empowerment and the ability to be happy, to be fulfilled, to feel wealthy, to feel satisfied, to feel gratitude without having any of these things happen. So it's like if you create something like a vision board, or you write down a list of the things that you desire, can you look at those things and say, yes, it would be really nice to experience those things, and I have a desire to do that. But if those things don't happen, can I still remain happy, satisfied, fulfilled? That is where it's about kind of walking that really thin line between attached and unattached. It's between that thin line between desire and attachment. And it's like you kind of want it like in the middle. And so, is there anything else I want to know? So one of the books actually that I've read that's really interesting and talks a lot about this is David Hawkins' book, Letting Go. The title explains it all. But what's really interesting is it talks about his own process. So he went through this and he discovered that the key to raising your vibration as well, because a lot of what he talks about is the vibrational scale and being able to raise your vibration from the lower end right up to the higher end. And the process that he used in order to raise his vibration was to let go. And he did this in his own life. And he did it with, he had a lot of health complications. So his main focus was around letting go of beliefs and letting go of his, not attachment, I suppose, but letting go of what was with a lot of his health issues. And he had a long list of health issues, and every single one of them he managed to remove. He kind of just sat into this place of like acceptance with them, and he just let go of them, and he let go of the beliefs and the attachments that he had to them. And another interesting thing that he did alongside of this, so I can't remember exactly, but so the book is called Letting Go by David Hawkins. So if you want to read it and check it out, it's really interesting because he talks through all of the different stages of vibration. He talks through like the vibrational like hierarchy and how we let go at each stage of that and what that can kind of look like in our own lives. So that's a really interesting like example. And it's also one of those books as well that kind of like raises your vibration just listening to it. I love it when that happens. Like you can feel like the energy that he has put into it. You can feel like almost the vibration that he was in when he created that, because it sort of translates when you listen to it. And so he talks in there about, so he kind of like, not affirmations, but every time he would like feel a belief coming up that was creating resistance, that was a block to what it was that he desired, he would kind of say almost a bit of a mantra, and it would be like, I release my attachment to this. I let go of this belief. This belief does not like serve me. It is not part of me. Like it was, I can't remember exactly, but it was sort of something along those lines. And another thing that he did whilst he went through this process of letting go was he also looked at a book called A Course in Miracles, and he worked through that. I have looked at it. I have begun to start reading it, but it's a really big book. And I just haven't found, it's just not been the right time in my life yet. Although it's interesting because it does keep calling to me. The title keeps coming back up. So I wonder if that's a bit of a sign. But basically, A Course in Miracles is all about, it's about forgiveness. So I think from memory, every single day, so the book is, that's why it's quite big, because it's basically, it is a course in a book, and every single day you have a different thing that you forgive, a different like area of your life, a different relationship, all of these kinds of things, and every day you work on a different way of forgiving. And forgiveness is a really interesting process to go through, because forgiveness is basically letting go. That is what forgiveness is. It's like saying, because that's the thing, isn't it? When you forgive, like, for an example, if somebody has done something to you that that you didn't like, when you forgive them, what you're doing, I mean, you can physically say those words to that person, but what it is it's more of an energetic release. So when you forgive somebody, or even yourself for doing something, it's like you're saying, you're declaring to the universe, to source, to yourself, I am now willing to let go of the attachment that I have held onto this particular circumstance, this situation, this thing that occurred in the past, and I am now going to release that from me. That is basically what forgiveness is. So he was kind of doing, like, he was doing this process of letting go in two different ways. And this is really what we want to start working on, because it's letting go of that resistance that is going to start speeding up the manifestation process. It's also going to start making it easier and more enjoyable, because what isn't enjoyable is the block, and we can feel it. We can feel it in ourselves. When we hit resistance, that's when it feels uncomfortable. That's when it doesn't feel enjoyable. That's when we've dropped out of alignment, is when we are in resistance. We want to start working on being open and unattached to the outcome. And also as well, when we become unattached to, so we might desire something. So let's say, we desire £1 million to come into our experience. Now, what also becomes painful about that desire is that we have, again, probably subconsciously, placed an expectation on how we expect to receive that outcome, how we expect to receive that desire. So we might have beliefs around, it's going to take a lot of hard work, it's going to take a lot of time, it's going to take, this, that, whatever it is. And that resistance is, already creating a painful process for us. So we want to start letting go of those, and we want to start becoming conscious of those. And there was something else I was just going to say then, and it's completely gone. What was it? No, it's gone. Maybe it wasn't needed. So this is what we want to start practicing. But what I want you to do, so this is kind of the homework, this is the practice to take away, is to start to become aware of when you are doing this unconsciously. Because like in my example with wanting a bath, now I was not sat there in this really conscious space and going, I really want a bath, so I'm going to let go of my attachment to it. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to surrender, and I'm going to say, I want a bath, and I know I'm worthy of having a nice relaxing bath, but if I don't have a bath, then I'm still good. I'm still happy and fulfilled and satisfied within myself. I didn't do any of that, but I did do it, but it was completely unconscious. But what is quite interesting when you do these things unconsciously is it's like you become conscious like after it's happened, but that's when you can really get a taste for what it feels like to do that without any attachment. So it was only until I was like in the bath that I realized this was what I had done, that I was able to look back throughout the day and see where my thoughts had gone and how I had behaved around this idea of something that I desired. And that's when you start to get those kind of like click moments. You start to get those, the pieces of the puzzle start to fit in. And then you start to really experience what it's like to do this process. And this helps with then when we try to translate that into doing it consciously. When we consciously go, right, I really desire this. So I'm gonna basically do all the things that I did when I was kind of unconsciously doing this. So it gives us that like first-hand feel for it. And if you experience it and you're looking back and you're going, oh yeah, that's it, I can feel that I let go of that attachment. I was happy whether I got it or whether I didn't. I sort of moved my thoughts on from it. It was because that's the other thing. When we get to this point where we can really master this from a conscious place, we have a desire. And actually, this is an example that David Hawkins has in his book that I always remember, that he had this, but in a conscious way. I think it was something like he wanted to manifest an apartment in New York, and he had like certain requirements about it. He wanted it to be in a certain location. He wanted the apartment to be like on a certain floor. He had a certain amount of money that he wanted to spend on it. So he had like quite a lot of requirements around it. And he talks about how he thought about that at the start of the day. And then he just kind of let it go. He forgot about it. He just went on about his day, knowing that it would happen, knowing that the right thing would come when it needed to, when he was ready to receive it. And then he says at the end of the day, he got in his car to go home, and something told him that he was just going to take a detour, and he was going to drive through the city, and that was the way he was going to go home. So he drives through the city, and he sees a sign for I can't think of the word, for an estate agent. That's it, sorry. Mind blank. So he sees an estate agent sign, and something just tells him to pull up outside of it. And he says, like, he talks about it like, again, like my bath situation. His mind was not thinking, oh, this is the apartment, this is it, I'm gonna find it here and all this stuff. It was just like, oh, something's telling me to park up outside of here for some reason. And he went and just had a look in the window, and in the window there was an advert, and I think this was right, there was either an advert or he went in. Anyway, what happens was he spoke to the estate agent, and there was this apartment that had literally just come up. Like, I don't know if it was that day or that hour, and it was all of his requirements, and it just came in. And so this is the thing, like, this is the kind of manifesting that we want to be doing. This is what we want to be achieving, is where we can put that desire out there, know and trust that it will come to us. All we have to do is get on the same vibrational frequency as it, release our resistance, and just go about our day. It's like our job is done at that point. We can hand the heavy lifting over to source, over to the universe, whatever it is you want to call it, your higher being, your inner self, and it's done. And there's no attachment in that. It's just the process. And that is what we want to start working towards. So a good way to do this, like I say, is in your day-to-day, start noticing where you have unconsciously done this around things that you really don't have much attachment to, and notice how easily they have come in. Notice what you did in the process. And that is when you can start noticing how you felt, how you behaved, what you were, what your mind was going through, what your thoughts were like. And you can start to then translate that process into a conscious process. It's just sometimes when we do it consciously, it can be really difficult not to add the attachment to it in the beginning. So I think this is just a really good way that you can start to feel firsthand how easily this can all happen and just flow. So that is it today. I don't think there was anything else. Nope, there's nothing else. So I'd love to hear if you have had any experiences of this. So let me know in the comments, because I just love a manifestation story, especially when they're like that, when they just happen so easily and so effortlessly. So if you've got one from the past that you can remember as well. See, this is interesting when you start to talk to people about law of attraction. I was talking to a friend recently, and he was telling me about this kind of period that he had in his career. He was a musician, and he was telling me like how he was like, you know, he felt so good, and it was he was just really enjoying himself, and they wanted to put this like gig on, and I think they wanted to create like a video presentation at the gig. And all of a sudden they just like got in contact, they just met this like videographer, and they were like students, and they really wanted to like collaborate with someone on a process. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it all just started to come about, and I could feel when he was telling me about this, like he was getting excited, his energy was raising. And so I'm sure that we've all got these experiences from the past. It's just, when they were in the past, we didn't really quite understand what was happening. We kind of probably just placed this idea that it was just luck, or, you know, we didn't really understand what was happening when those things were carrying out in our lives. So drop any of those that you've got in the comments, because I absolutely love to read them. And I think they just send like such a high vibe to everybody else. And go away and think about starting to place awareness on where this is already happening unconsciously in your life. And then you can start to translate what is happening into doing that consciously. Take the unconscious process, because that is just happening almost perfectly, and start to see how you can translate doing this consciously, because that is when the fun comes. That is when the manifestations come easily. And that is when we really step into being a conscious creator of our own reality. So if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up, because it just helps share it with anybody else that needs to hear this and wants to call in the life that they want. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe, because I'm going to be starting to do lots more of these little mini educational kind of videos to share examples with you and to give you these little practices. I'm also going to be starting to schedule in hopefully some regular lives, because I really would love to get on with you guys and take questions and just really get some kind of flow going with some of these videos, and just go with whatever is coming up question wise for you guys. So I will leave it at that. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video.